Hey everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to achieve this sliding forward effect. I'll do this rotating video portion in a separate tutorial, so please look out for that. To achieve this look, all you have to do is take a photo of your model, you each take a step forward the same distance, take another photo, take a step forward the same distance again, and so on and so forth until you have all the clips that you need. I recommend at least 15 to 20 clips. There's a few techniques that we need to do while shooting in order to make this video successful. The first technique is having your model maintain the exact same pose between each shot. And what I mean by that is you can see your model Catherine here. Her hands are always in the same position right by her body, and her feet are about the same distance apart from each other. As you can see here, I have a grid up on camera, and we're always keeping Catherine's head at the top of the line and her feet at the bottom. Now, if you want to change the size of that grid, you're going to enable two separate grids in camera. The first one here, if you want to keep your subjects in the center, vertically and horizontally, and then the grid on the right, it doesn't really look like a grid, it's more of a box. You're going to enable that, and when you do that, you can customize the size of the grid. So maybe you don't want the person to be in that preset size and you want them to be smaller or larger in your frame. And that's what that custom grid is for. So you can pinch it and move it around, make sure you're pinching inside the box. You can move it around if you don't want it centered. You can enable that first grid that we enabled. You can tilt it. Again, this is really handy because relying on just the ghosted image feature to achieve this look, it's going to be hard because especially when you're shooting outside, it's bright out and you can't always line it up exactly. So last thing here is if you know you're going to post this to Instagram and you want it to be a square video, enable this last icon. There's IG square and IG vertical. The IG vertical is 4x5, and you can see just the square gray outline here so you know where to frame your subject. So now that we have all this enabled, what we're going to do is lock our exposure and our white balance. We're locking the exposure and white balance to avoid any flickering between each shot. So you do not want the camera to be re-exposing every shot, because when you play it back quickly, it'll have flickering throughout because the lighting will be changing. Again, I'm just walking through this to give you context before we walk into the shoot with the model, who is my friend Catherine Penfold, and she's a singer and she's amazing, so go check her out. I've left the focus unlocked here only because I want it to always be focusing on the subject. You can tap to focus each time or just leave it. But as you can see, we're applying the same method. So I have the box is always on the outline of this grid. And you can see the ghosted image. You can make it more transparent or less transparent if you want. I like to have it a little bit there just as a guideline. Otherwise, I'm just using the box to move it forward. This will dictate how much you need to move forward or backward between each shot here. Sorry for the shakiness there. So we're just gonna finish up here and we can see the effect. I know the first thing we're gonna do is see how slow it's going. That is another big mistake that I see people making, is they have it going super slow and it looks jolty. So personally, I always speed it up, and I love the boomerang effect because it just flows nicer. All right, let's get back to our shoot with Catherine here. As you can see, I'm always lining her head up at the top line there, and then her feet close to the bottom. Now, this was a very bright sunny day, so it was hard for me to see the screen. But you can see the split screen here as a reference. That's me in the back shooting. This was a cold day, and I'll just speed it up here. I think you guys get the point now. I should have done the custom grid. I'm not sure why I didn't for this one, because I would have liked to have the centered grid enabled and then the custom sized grid. I think I just saw the size of this one and thought it was good enough, but there was opportunity for better alignment by having the center. I could have centered her head each time. So once you're done shooting and you notice it's still a bit jolty, even when you speed it up, it's probably because your subject isn't lined up. So as you're moving forward, not only is the background changing, but now your subject is fluctuating in size because you didn't keep them in the grid throughout the shoot consistently. There's a solution to that. So if you open up the player and go to that top right icon, it's a grid, click on that. This will take you to all your photos in the project. Click on the first photo in the project and it will open up another editor here. That bottom left icon will enable you to resize this individual photo. And I'm going to tell you why this is helpful. So what we're going to do here is we are going to align all of our clips in the project to the first image in the project. It's important that your first image in the project is not your widest. Now, you can't really control what you took because the project's already created at this point, but what I mean is you probably want to zoom in a little bit on that first photo. And the reason for that is, let's say you have your first image and it's not zoomed in at all and it's super wide. Now, if you go to maybe your fifth frame in the project and you took it super close, how are you supposed to realign that image to the first one? Because you won't be able to zoom out and just make that background magically appear and bring your subject smaller. So it's important that your first image, you do zoom in, pinch and zoom a little bit. That gives you more flexibility when you're editing to have all of those clips after your first align with your first clip in the project. And the reason why we want to do the first image in the project and not the previous is because we want that consistent size of this camera or your model or whatever your subject is throughout the entirety of the shoot. It is not changing size, therefore it's best to go by the first frame in the project. You can pinch and zoom just on the screen there. We have the ghosted image. Make sure when you are done pinching and zooming, you click that check mark on the top right hand side. If you do not click that and you just push X, it will not save your edits. And I'm just pinching and zooming and realigning it. I'm using the words Polaroid and Sun 640, I think it says, as my guideline. And yeah, I'm just dragging and making sure those are lined up. And then again, pushing that check mark. I'm going to do that for the rest of these here. And then let's go to our player and see how it looks. I was pretty diligent shooting this, that it was lined up right at the box outline, so there isn't too much editing here and you won't see a huge difference, but if you did shoot unevenly, this will make a difference. It does take a bit of time, but I promise you the results will really take your video to the next level and have that super polished professional look. I applied the same editing technique to the video with Catherine as she's sliding across the ground to make sure her feet and her head were always lined up in the same spot. Sorry I didn't record that version, which is why I created this other camera version here, just so you have context as to how to edit. If you've made it to the end of this video, it probably means you're going to create some really amazing videos, and I would love to see them. Please tag us on Instagram at lifelapse_app, or you can hashtag lifelapse.